Hey grade 11s, welcome back. Let's start our 6th unit here, managing money. So I'm excited about this unit personally. I know that people find this unit very practical, and when I've taught it in the past, students have really liked it, and so I'm excited to teach it to you guys too. I had a lot of great ideas to do this in class, but unfortunately we're going to have to do it by distance, and that is what it is, but I do really hope that you guys like it. So we're going to cover 4 topics inside this unit, as you can see, and we're going to do debit cards and ATMs in this video, and then I'll make other videos with the other ones. Okay, so debit cards and ATMs. Now, this is something I know lots of you know about already. I know most of you have debit cards and you've probably used an ATM at some point or another, but not everybody might have one already, and so it's good to have some knowledge about it beforehand or even after you get one. Okay, so just a quick note about this unit. I'm going to be using like my copy where all the blanks are filled in, all the spaces where you have blanks are underlined in my notes, and then you can just copy them down. You can pause the video at any time, or I'll give you a second to copy it or whatever. The reason is it's just too hard for me to write with the stylus, so it's easier for you to copy off of a typed set of notes instead of my crazy writing with this iPad and stylus. Okay, so let's talk about debit cards. So we know that debit cards are a great banking tool. Their uses and advantages are listed here. So a major reason that we have debit cards is because a lot of people don't carry cash these days, and so when you don't have cash on hand, your debit card will do the job for you. And then another good thing about debit cards is that they're easy to keep track of spending, because you can look at your information on your bank statement, or if you do online banking, which we'll talk about next lesson, then you can check it there, that kind of thing. Unlike a credit card, which we looked at the start of the year, it is totally impossible to spend more money than you have on a debit card. If you try to buy something that has a higher total than your bank balance, it will reject your purchase, so you can't overspend. And it's safer than cash because someone could steal cash from you, but if they steal your bank card and your debit card, it's not going to give them any money because you need the PIN. Okay, the small downside of debit cards is a service fee. Oftentimes, banks will charge you to use the debit card from them if you use it out of the country or at a different bank. The service fee isn't usually too high, but it can add up over time. And then there's just a good definition of a service fee here, so you can take a look at that. Sometimes it's also called a service charge, means the same thing. Okay. Second topic of today is ATMs. Maybe some of you already knew this, but an ATM actually stands for automatic teller machine, which means it's a machine that does the job of a bank teller, which is the person that you'd go talk to at the bank to take out money or pay your bills or that kind of thing. ATMs are awesome because you can get your money when you're not at the bank, and there are many ATMs in a city or sometimes even inside one place like a mall. There can be a bunch of them, so it's easy to access your money. The downside to ATMs, this is worth noting, is that they also often charge service fees. Okay, so sometimes when you're shopping, you might even get charged a service fee both from the bank and the ATM, so a little bit of a double whammy, so that can be a downside. The way to get around this, though, is to make sure you only use ATMs managed by your own bank. Okay, so that's also a good thing to note. That's kind of the counteraction to the service fee. That's how you resolve it. Okay, your own bank doesn't charge you to use their own ATMs. So if you bank at CIBC, then just use CIBC ATMs. And if you bank at RBC, then just use RBC ATMs and that kind of thing. So that would be my advice there. All right, so now we can see that there's a link, of course, between ATMs and debit cards, being that you can use your debit card to take out money out of an ATM. Let's do a couple examples. Okay, so Jaylyn is using a debit card to withdraw money from an ATM that's not managed by her bank. Okay, so that means that she's going to get charged a service fee. So the ATM charges a fee of $1.75 per transaction. That's a keyword there, or a key phrase. Okay, so she's withdrawing $20, and we want to know how much money will be removed from her account in total, right? So that means including the service fee. So we're saying that she's taking out $20, and she's getting charged $1.75 by the ATM. So we want to know in total how much money is that. We're just going to add those together to give us $21.75 is being removed from her account. Oops. There we go. Okay, so that's the answer for that question. let's keep going. Okay, so still talking about Jillian here. If Jillian makes 12 transactions in 1 month, how much will she pay in ATM fees? Okay, so all we want to know is the ATM fees, and we are going to assume that the ATM fee is always $175 because it doesn't tell us anything different. Okay, so we're saying 12 transactions multiplied by $1.75 per transaction. Okay, and that's how much we want to calculate, and I'm just going to plug that into my calculator here, and you can do the same, and we'll see if we get the same answer, which is $21 in ATM fees. So as you can see, that's quite a bit of money to be just paying to the ATM essentially, and not using for your own purposes, like buying groceries or paying your cell phone bill or whatever. And so a good way to avoid that kind of thing, like avoid paying so much in ATM fees, is to just make sure that you always use an ATM that's managed by your own bank, like we talked about before. Okay, moving on. We just have one example here, and that will be the rest of this lesson. So the reason I made this lesson shorter is because I know that many of you do have debit cards and are using them, so you probably know a lot of this. But again, in case you don't, I want to make sure we have some exposure to it. Okay, so this time James is using his debit card to buy some materials for a crafting project, and we're noticing here in the example that small retailers, will often charge a fee for using a debit card, especially when the purchase is small, like less than $5 or $10. Okay, and the reason for that is because otherwise they're paying the fees to the bank on their end, and so then instead of paying for it themselves, they just charge the customer for it. When we are looking here, we can see James's purchases. Okay, so we can see that he made 3 small purchases. They're all less than 5 or 10, so they're all going to get charged the 25-cent fee per transaction. Okay, so how much money does James pay in service charges? So we just want to know how much he pays in service charges. So because he's getting charged 25 cents per transaction, that's a little messy, hey? Let's try that again. There we go. And he makes 3 transactions. Then we're going to multiply that by 3 to get a grand total of 75 cents in service fees. Okay, next example. How much does he pay in total for all the crafting supplies? So in total is what we're looking for this time. So this time we're going to take into account the amount that he spent on each purchase, right? So we're looking at the first purchase, which is $1.76, plus the second purchase of $3.44, plus the third purchase. That's also messy. Let's try that. There we go. Of $2.98. And of course, we can't forget those service fees, right? So we're going to add that 75 cents in there to get our total. And again, I'm just going to plug that into my calculator. So let's see what happens here. You might be ahead of me, but that's okay. Let's see, 344. 298. Okay, and that gives me a grand total of $8.93. Oh, that's a little messy there, hey? Let's try that again. Perfect. Okay, so that's how much he's paying in total. So if he made 8 small transactions at the store over the next month, how much would he be paying in service fees? So again, we know the service fee is 25 cents. And if he pays that 8 times, we want to know how much money is that. And that works out to $4. There we go. And last but not least, list 2 ways James can avoid wasting money on service charges. Okay. The first way that I would recommend is make larger purchases. So the reason I'm saying that is because if he spends more than that $5 or $10 that we talked about here in the example, then the retailer won't charge him any extra money. So that is one very straightforward way to avoid the charges. And so by make larger purchases, I mean group purchases together, right? I'm just saying, like, go to the store once instead of 3 times. Okay. And then the other way that I would think about, there are other options, of course. These are just the first two that personally came to mind, is find a store that doesn't charge service fees. Oops, that's not how we spell service. There we go. Of course, there are other options. If you have another option that you're not sure about and you want me to go over with you, just message me. That's great. And we can talk about it. But there we go. That's kind of just an intro to the unit. Okay, debit cards, ATMs. And the next unit, nope, that's not true. Next lesson, we're going to move on to online banking. Okay, so if you have questions about this, let me know. There's no homework with today's lesson, I guess, but I will post some practice for you guys at some point once I have a chance to upload it. Okay, I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.